The gate had been installed 4 years ago by a man named Gerald, who had installed a great many pool gates over the course of his career and who had assured them it would last. Kevin and Miriam Ostrowski had moved to the house with the in-ground pool when their daughter Bay was 18 months old. They had added the fence. They had added the gate. They had added the self-closing mechanism and the key release latch and the appropriate signage and the lock on the outside that required a key. They had done everything the pool safety guidelines recommended, and they had felt, in the specific way of parents who follow instructions carefully and completely, that they had done what needed to be done. Zeus was a 3-year-old German shepherd who had come to them from a working dog kennel in Pennsylvania when he was 8 months old. He was not trained for anything specific. He was a family dog who happened to have the precise neurological wiring of a breed that had spent generations deciding what required attention and acting on that decision without waiting to be asked. He had been stationed at the pool gate since Monday. Not permanently. He still ate, still slept, still did the morning walk. But when Bia was outside in the afternoon, Zeus was at the gate. Not playing near it, not lounging beside it, at it in the specific alert posture Miriam had come to recognize as his working mode. Weight forward, ears slightly forward, eyes moving between the gate and Bia and back. She thought he was being overprotective. The pool fence was rated, locked, and compliant. She had told Zeus twice to relax, which had produced no observable change in his behavior. On Thursday, she noticed him pressing his nose against the gate latch, not licking it, not scratching it, pressing his nose to the specific mechanism of the latch, sniffing it in the slow, deliberate way of a dog that has found something that merits sustained attention. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. She called the pool company on Friday, not because she believed there was a problem. The gate looked fine. The fence looked fine. But because she had learned, over 3 years with this dog, that when Zeus gave sustained attention to an object, the object usually warranted a second look. The service technician, a young woman named Tara, arrived Saturday morning. She examined the gate. She examined the latch mechanism. She moved the gate through its range, opening and closing it, testing the self-closing spring. She stopped. She called Kevin over. The latch had a hairline crack running across the zinc casting of the mechanism body. It was not visible to the casual inspection. The crack was on the interior face of the casting, not visible without removing the cover plate. But the plate was slightly misaligned, which Tara noted was sometimes a sign of internal stress. She removed the cover plate. The crack ran 60% of the way through the casting, under sustained load. A gust of wind against the gate, a child pulling the fence, the repeated thermal expansion and contraction of metal in summer, the latch could shear through completely. She demonstrated by applying lateral pressure. The gate swung free. She applied it for 3 seconds. Bea was in the backyard. Has your dog ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Tara replaced the latch assembly. She noted in her service report that the original installation had used a zinc alloy latch in a high UV environment without the corrosion protective coating recommended for poolside applications, and that this type of failure mode was well documented. Kevin asked her while she was finishing the paperwork how long the crack had been there. She estimated 2 to 3 weeks based on the oxidation pattern at the crack face. Zeus had been stationed at the gate for 5 days. Kevin stood at the pool gate after Tara left and looked at the new latch. Solid, properly rated, correctly coated, and thought about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. He thought about telling Zeus to relax. He thought about Bea running toward the pool fence in the afternoon with the specific focused speed of a 3-year-old who had spotted something interesting beyond it. Miriam came and stood beside him. They didn't say anything for a minute. Zeus was in the yard doing the slow perimeter walk he did when the afternoon light was good. He was not at the gate. He was not at the gate because there was no longer anything wrong with the gate. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Kevin had no clinical explanation for how Zeus had known. He had looked it up, the way he looked things up. He was an accountant. He believed in documentation. And what he found was largely anecdotal, the kind of research that existed in forums and veterinary behavior notes rather than peer-reviewed journals. Dogs detected metal corrosion through the oxidation compounds and metal salts produced as metal degraded. They detected structural instability through vibration and acoustic changes in materials under stress. The evidence was not assembled into a tidy study. But then, neither was the evidence he had compiled from 5 days of watching his German shepherd stand at a pool gate and press his nose against the latch. Bay came running across the yard toward the gate, the way she always did, toward the glittering surface beyond, toward the water that she was 3 years old and not yet swimming in, and that was 4 feet from the gate she could not open, but that a broken latch on a windy afternoon could have allowed her to approach from the other side. Zeus intercepted her before Kevin could. He came from the left and angled his body across her path, and she ran into his flank and bounced and laughed, and he stood there while she righted herself. And then he walked beside her back toward the center of the yard, where Miriam was waiting, where the afternoon was still full of light. The next story is about a dog who wouldn't let his family near their own front steps for an entire morning. The wildlife relocation officer who came said he'd been waiting at exactly the right place. Subscribe so you're there when it posts.